I'd now like to invite Sri Apoorva Oza from the Aga Khan Foundation to talk about civil society perspectives in agroecology.
Bharat Bhushan ji, Sarvadhanam Bhai, Dr. Vasavi, Dr. Minesha, Dr. Das. This whole agroecology approach, natural farming approach, first of all, this thing has many names, right? Regenerative farming, natural farming, agroecology, there's a lot of names, and it's part of the problem. So it owes its existence, and I'm a very proud part of civil society. And if you look at how this whole approach has evolved, you see a very, very major role of civil society in taking this to this level where it is shaping national policies, it's shaping market forces, it's shaping everything. And it all started from individuals like Sarvadhaman Bhai, Bhushanji, and my favorite, organic farmer, Kapil is here in the audience, the pioneer in Gujarat. These are people who shaped this movement, who had the courage when nobody else had the courage to do something different, where everybody called them silly and absurd and irrelevant 30 years ago, where climate change was not a word, where agroecology was not a word. At that time, these individuals stood up and, driven by their own ideology, they started experimenting, they started doing things on their farms and showed us that this is possible, this is feasible, it's doable. And I think that is what civil society does. It takes a path untrodden, it takes a path unpopular, and it goes and does things on the ground. And then the world realizes that yes, this is also possible, this is also feasible, and we can also learn from this. So if you look at, I was asked to speak about the civil society perspective. So I thought first let me mention the contribution to this approach. I think it's been an evolving perspective. The first perspective started with these pioneering individuals. And it took it to some distance because people used them, you visited their farms, you learned something from it. But there were limitations because farmers had many limitations in adapting this approach. Yeah? Because it's a major change, right? So then from an ideology as a driver, you then move to what we call ideology plus economics as the driver. Because as the cost of agri input started increasing, we could point out, a lot of others could point out that this is not only great for the ecology, but it's also reducing your input costs substantially. Your pesticide costs, your fertilizer costs, your seed costs, your watering cost. Sarvadhaman Bhai told us all the benefits. So all these costs have come down, which are the costs which are killing the conventional farmer. The input costs is the major source of indebtedness in rural India. The bulk of the loans are taken just before the Kharif season, and then you are in debt throughout, right? So the economics as a logic came in. Then civil society realized that, you can't take it very far only on the strength of extension and role models. So they appealed to the state, and then the state moved in, and then state also added financial incentives. So you have subsidies for fodder, subsidies for bio inputs. So nowadays, every state, Gujarat, etc., they've brought in subsidies to incentivize farmers too. So it's ideology plus incentive. But what I think, that has also taken us to about from 1 to 2% of the farmers to about 5-7% of the farmers, right? 10% maybe. But what scale requires is a system approach, and farmers are locked into a larger ecosystem of a standardized value chain, a fairly exploitative market, both for credit and for outputs. So they are locked into this. And therefore, unless you have a systems approach, you cannot scale up. And to me, the best example I know, and I'm sure there are others, But my favorite example of a systems approach is the Orissa Millet Mission. I think you're going to have a paper on this. That approach is not only extension, it's extension plus guaranteed procurement, plus processing and decentralized processing, not centralized but decentralized processing, plus markets. So they are trying to change the whole value chain, the entire value chain. And that systems approach is creating a scale, because some farmers are not one monolith, right? Farmers are different, like you and me. So some are driven by ideology, some are driven by economics, some are driven by an ease of working. You know, I remember I went to the farm of a very famous organic farmer, and then his neighbor, just sort of about half a kilometer, or 3 farms away, I said, he was not doing it. I said, why not doing it? He said, see, that guy's got labor, he's got cattle, he can do all this. I've got nothing. So the day organic farming or your system, I give a phone call and a quality bio input bag is available to me, that is the day I will take up organic farming. Otherwise, I don't have the labor and the time to do all this. So you need a whole systems approach. So I think the evolution which has happened in the perception of civil society, and you know, Orissa Millet Mission, Vasan had a huge role to play in changing the state, bringing the market. So civil society then partners with markets, it partners with the state, then to take agroecology to a scale. So I think this evolution in thinking which has happened of civil society, that is the way in which you can have scaling up. There's another thought which I just wanted to share, is the other problem with this, why scaling up doesn't happen, is the old binary approach of assessing. So we say either a farmer is a natural farmer or he is not. While natural farming is a transitional approach. And there is a transition on practices. So you easily start with biopesticides, then you may move to biocompost, then you may move to sort of less tillage, then you may move to soil cover. So you will adopt practices as and when it works for you, as and when you feel confident. So there is a transition, it's a continuum. It's not this binary yes or no. There is also a continuum for a farmer. The farmer will start with 1 acre out of 4 acres, then move to the 2nd acre, then move to the 3rd acre. So to call a farmer natural, non-natural doesn't make sense, because most farmers are both natural farmers and non-natural farmers. They're doing 1 acre of natural farming, 3 acres, they need money, they need to sell their crops, so they'll do what everybody else does. And that is the reality. And therefore, let me come to my point, this transition we need to make is also in our thinking. Is for one of the weaknesses of the civil society movement is that it has become, it others the other. So what it says is, we the natural farmers, or we are the pure people, right? And those, the other, and that to me disrespects all farmers. Farmers do what they do for some logic. The moment you other them, you make it very difficult for you to convert them. But if you understand why they are not doing what you think should be doing, that is the first step, that respect and that understanding, that is the first step to addressing the challenges and then getting them to transit. So I think this is a major challenge to me for the scaling up issue, is to adapt a systems approach and to adapt a inclusive continuum approach. If you do this, then there is a hope and there is a potential for scaling up. And before I end, let me just end 4, I think, challenges which I see for scaling up. One is the availability of bio-inputs on a scale, quality tested bio-inputs on a scale. Right now, no testing mechanisms exist, and scaling up of quality is still a far dream. So that's one part. The second is markets and consumer behavior, etc. Raskum should be selling in every Amul parlor. It should not be confined to one conference hosted by IRMA. Millets should be. The third is the adoption of an overall systems approach. And the fourth to me is also evidence-based extension, because I've gone to too many natural farmers who are saying, listen, you've given me this biopesticide, when am I supposed to spray it? What is the quantity? What is the dosage? What works for my crop? I want to do this. So the specificity, the granularity, it's not enough to say do biocompost or biopesticide. For every farmer, every crop, every season, they need details. And unless these details are available, farmers will not adopt. And for that, you need to collect evidence, which is very granular. So once that is there, then I think these challenges of scaling up will be done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Apoorva Bhai, for sharing insights on issues of scaling. I think there are panels that will be considering it. And you raised this important point on the need for transitions in thinking.